Hello, dear viewers. You all are welcomed in the channel Easy Learning. So, this is a place where you will learn the basic English grammar in an easy way. So, today I am here with the topic active and passive voice. So, let's start the topic. So, first of all, you need to understand what is active voice. Active means action. So, active voice means action. When the subject does an action and the object receives an action, it is called active voice. You may understand it through an easy example. The hunter killed the lion. So, here the hunter, which is subject, killed verb, the lion object. So the sentence where the subject does an action, it is called active voice. Now, just try to understand what is passive voice. Passive voice means no action. When the subject receives an action and the object does an action, it is called passive voice. Passive means when a person is in a form where he or she does not do anything. So that means passive. So that's why passive voice means no action. So when the subject receives an action, it is called passive voice. Next, try to understand it through an example. The hunter killed the lion. So here the hunter subject, killed verb, and the lion object. So how will you transform an active voice into passive voice? When the subject changes into object and the object changes into subject, so then it becomes passive voice. Here are certain changes that you will do when you will transform active voice into passive voice. As you can see, killed. The verb is killed and this is simple past. So when you will change from active to passive voice, so here it will be added was and the third form of the verb, and by will be added here, which tells you about that who has done the action. So in the active voice here you can simply see that the subject does an action and the object receives an action, and after transforming it into passive, your object it becomes subject and the subject becomes object. So in the passive voice, subject is in passive form. So that means it receives the action. And there are the certain changes which are done in the verb. So as this is simple past, so you have added was plus third form of the verb and by. Now, before that, before going to the other part, first of all, it is important to understand that which are the tenses in which you may transform active voice into passive voice, as these are certain tenses in which this transformation can be done. So you can transform active into passive in simple present, simple past, simple future, present continuous, past continuous, present perfect, past perfect, and future perfect. Now, how this transformation will be taken place, that will be explained to you. As you can see, the very first tense, simple present tense, the tense in the sentence in the active voice is he buys a book. When you will change it into passive, so a book it becomes subject and the subject he in the active voice it becomes him when you will change into passive, as him is always used as an object, and buys it is simple present, so that's why you will use is plus third form of the verb, as the third form of buy is bought. So here you can understand it. So your passive voice sentence will be a book is bought by him. Now, the next is simple past tense. So, simple past tense, the principal total lesson. As you can see here, the second form of the verb is used. Otherwise, the subject becomes object and the object becomes subject. It will be changed in the same way in all the tenses, whatever the tenses there. Only the thing that you need to notice that how you will transform from active to passive voice and how you will change the tenses. So here, as taught, this is second form of the verb in the simple past, and when you will change it into passive voice, so was will be added and third form of the verb will be used. Next it is there, next tense is simple future. So in the simple future, as we use will or shall plus first form of the verb, as you can see here, and when you will transform it into passive voice, so will be. So what will be added with will be and the third form of the verb. So always remember that when you are transforming from active to passive voice, so in whatever the tense is there in the passive voice, your verb will always be the third form. So you will always use the third form of the verb in the passive voice. Now the next tense is present continuous tense. So he is writing a letter. When you will transform it into passive voice, a letter is being written by him. So what have you added here? Being. So in continuous always you will add being and third form of the verb. Now the next is past continuous. Here it is used was driving. So here also, as it is also continuous, whatever the continuous is there, whether it is present continuous or the past continuous, so you will always add being. Was being and the third form of the verb drive. Second form is drove and the third form is driven. So here it will be used in this way and your passive voice sentence will be a bus was being driven by Tom. Your next tense is the present perfect tense. He has sold sheep. So here also has sold. So it is denoting here present perfect tense and how the change it will be occurred that has you have used in the active voice because your subject is singular. Now in the passive voice your subject has become plural, so that's why you will use plural verb. So at the place of has you will use have, and in the perfect, as in the continuous we always use being, so in the perfect you always add been. So have been and the third form of the verb. Next tense is their past perfect tense. They had played a football match. So as in the present perfect, we use has or have plus third form of the verb. So in the same way in the past perfect, we always use had plus third form of the verb. So here also match, a football match had been. So here also you will add been plus third form of the verb. So in this way, when we change from active to passive voice transformation, in the transformation, these are the certain changes that we do. Now, after that, there are certain sentences or the certain verbs where the students they face problem for changing from active to passive voice. So in that the first is transitive verb. In the transitive verbs, as you can see, the first one is she gave me a pen. So here she gave me. So what is exactly the transitive verb? When the verb needs an object for receiving its action. So that is called transitive verb. So here you can see she gave me a pen. So in the passive form when you will use, so a pen as the sentence is in simple past, so you will add was. A pen was given to me by her. So here as you can see that two objects are there. The one is me and one is a pen. So this transformation can be done in the two ways. The one is done for you. A pen was given to me by her. So here you have used a pen as a subject in the passive voice. Now the other way is you may use me also as a subject. I was given a pen by her. So these are the two ways for transforming from active to passive voice in transitive verbs. Now after that, prepositional verbs. As you can see, active voice, he laughed at the beggar. So here, as you can see, he laughed at the beggar. So he laughed at the beggar. Here, prepositional verbs, that means the verbs with which we use prepositions. So those are called prepositional verbs. So here, as you can see, at is used with the verb laughed when you will change it into passive. So the beggar was laughed at. So that means when you will change it into passive voice, so you cannot separate the verb from the preposition because it is a prepositional verb. They'll be used together in the passive voice also. I hope you all have understood it better. The next is auxiliary verbs. So in the active, as you can see, Namita may win the prize. Now, what is auxiliary verb here? May is auxiliary verb. What are the other auxiliary verbs that you can tell me? Um, Obviously, that is could is also counted as auxiliary verb. Can is also auxiliary verb. Would is also auxiliary verb. So with these kinds of auxiliary verbs, you will use be plus third form of the verb. In imperative sentences in which you suggest, you advise, you request, so many conditions are there in imperative sentences. So here is one imperative sentence: open the door. So this is an order. So in the passive voice, when you will change it into, so it can also be changed in two ways. The first is let the door be open. Let the door be open. So you will add let or be, and obviously the third form of the verb. And the next is the door should be open. So these are the two ways, and with these two ways, you may transform from active into passive voice in imperative kind of sentences. I hope you all have understood this topic, active and passive voice, and just wait for the other basic grammar topics of English. And do not forget to subscribe and like this video. Thanks. Have a nice day.